Y'all have a problem? There it is. There's the recording. If you have a problem, issue, whatever, please reach out to her. She has a very open door policy. So, please take the initiative to reach out. What we're going to do, oh, your Wi-Fi is here. Your bathroom is down the hallway. There's multiple bathrooms straight down the hallway. There is a breakfast. Good morning. Breakfast area. Doesn't have any breakfast, but there's coffee. There's water in the fridge in the hallway right here. So y'all make yourselves at home. This is being recorded, like I said, so I'll keep some of my jokes normal and not crossing the line since it's being recorded. And what we're going to do today is we're going to go about 15-20 minutes in the beginning. I'm giving you just a little update about what to do to prepare. Because when we go to do a CMA, I'm going to show you the platform. We're going to walk through it. I'm going to show you how to do comps. I'll do you all that stuff. But I always feel like I can't just jump into that without talking about a few things about how we get to that point. So just ride the ride with me. You'll probably learn something and be like, okay, that wasn't horrible. And then we'll dive into the CMA part. What I did do is pull up the Longleaf Pines YouTube channel. So if you have never been on there, it has all of our trainings, other things on here. We are going to reference a few things on this appraisal panel because I already know the questions you're going to ask me. Like, how much do you give for a fence? How much do you give for a garage? Megan, tell me the answers. So I am going to just click over here. When we get to the CMA part, I've cut out 1, 2, 3, 4, about 6, 7 spots for a minute. And I'm going to let the professionals tell you exactly how we go about doing those things. So if you've never seen those videos. So when we go to doing, okay. So when we go to doing, we get a call and you're going to be doing a CMA, right? Somebody calls you to say, I want you to sell my house. Maybe you've sold 20, maybe you've sold none. The first thing that I feel like you should do is a pre-list interview. And that pre-list interview you do over the phone. Hey, do you have a couple of minutes so I can better prepare for an appointment? Okay. So what does that mean for you? You're going to ask some questions about the property. Why is that important?
Price.
Do what?
For price.
For pricing. Why else is it important to get more questions answered from them? Knowledge of the property, condition. What are we looking at? If they say they bought it 20 years ago and they've never done an update, and I'm going through and pulling comps for my CMA, don't I kind of have to consider that? What if they've told you that, oh, we used to have a shed, but we tore it down? Okay, well, if you were looking at old photos and you're trying to give value for a shed, so you want to get questions up front. A lot of times people jump into a CMA, honestly, they go look at Zillow or something, and I'm like, that's not really the value because you've got to take all the features and compare, right? So you want to gather information. This is a 3 to 5 minute call, right? So I'm gonna, hey, can you tell me about your house? A great thing you can say is from 1 to 10, how do you rate your house? And they say 8. Well, what would make it a 10? Oh, I need new carpet. I need new paint. Now it's clicking, right? So when I go to make the CMA that we'll do at the end, you have a range of pricing. You might gear more towards 1 based on the condition they've told you if you haven't seen the house yet, right? So you want a range on there. Because if I walk in and they say it's awful, right? I'm going to push towards a lower range. But say if you do this, this, and this, we can get to the higher range. You want to know, who are you dealing with? Are you the only owner of this property? Okay. You want to ask those questions. Are you the only, is this your primary residence? People might call you and say, hey, I want to sell this property. Great. And you're assuming it's their primary residence, and you find out there's tenants. So is this your primary? Is this an investment property? Because maybe they just flipped it. Well, we have some guidelines with our lending on that. Is it tenant occupied? If it was like a inheritance, oh, well, my mother just left it to me. Okay, so we probably want to run that through an attorney, right? To make sure that the legal courses that have taken place, we don't want to go list a property and find out they don't really have a legal right to list the property. Okay, so we want to make sure that we run, if it's an heir situation, a trust situation, anything like that, you might run it through an attorney. So we gather all that data up front. Maybe they say they're divorced. Okay. You pull it up, you see there's 2 people, there's only Mary calling you, and you're like, we're divorced. Well, we got to clarify. Are they divorced where we need a quitclaim deed, or did they not have marital interest at that time and now they're divorced? They don't have to have a quitclaim deed. So that scenario you're going to run through your attorneys. You can never ask your attorney too many questions. Okay. Or your BIC, go to your BIC. Oh yeah, let me pre-note that. Don't say Megan said. Okay. I'm giving you guys my best guidance, but don't go back to your office and said, well, Megan said, okay? So just keep in mind. So you'll go to your attorney. So all that stuff is very important. Sorry, I have like a mess up here. All that stuff is very important because when we go to work through our CMA, we want to know condition, quality, upgrades. Maybe they told you they added like a she shed out back and it's got power and all this other stuff. If you don't know that going in and you're one of those people who just brings the CMA to your first appointment and you're $20,000 less than what they were thinking because you didn't know the features, that could kind of hinder you. Now you can do a two-step. Some people will gather all the information, do a rough CMA, go look at the house, then go home, do the numbers, and call them back. You do whatever your heart desires. It's up to you. Megan's not telling you any right way to do it or wrong way to do it. But so, okay. So we've gotten our data from them. The next thing I want to do is go in and see if I have, I'm going to write down this address because we're using a property. We want to see if there's any information I can pull up on this. Oh, that's my information. If you ever need anything. I don't know if you guys can read this, but 7290 Sand Castle. Okay, then Linden. I don't know if y'all can read that. Sorry if you can. We're gonna go in, and this is somebody's listing, so please don't solicit that person. I'm always nervous. I'm not gonna know my password. It's like, oh gosh. Okay. Hey, if you guys haven't taken your survey, take your survey. Okay. So what I'm going to go and do is first I'm going to go into the matrix and I'm going to see if there's any old listings in here. Why? Because if they bought it 5 years ago, said they've done no updates, I want to go look and see about the property. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to go to sold. I'm not going to put any dates in there and I'm going to put the street address. And I'm going to put, well, I could put Sandcastle, but there's only 5 matches. So I'm going to look and see. And I don't see it in here. Oh, was it? See, class participation. All right, so I'm going to click on it and I see that it's sold here. Okay, so this is kind of, I don't want to say a red flag, but it's kind of like, let me look at this. It's sold with 0 days on the market. Okay, so I'm going to go down. I'm going to look at the bottom. It was a listing agent and the selling agent were the same person. They listed it and penned it. Let's go to the history. So I'm going to look at the history of this listing. I can see that they listed and penned it within 5 minutes. So probably, and I look at the history, it's been leased before too. So I'm looking at multiple things here. One, it could be the tenant purchased the house. Okay. This is 2016. This was not COVID. Our average market time then was between like 7 and 9 months. We were not, it was not COVID. You might see 1-0 for COVID time frame. That was normal, but we can't, So this is probably, somebody, not saying this is good or bad, but I'm getting data on this, right? So I see that then I go back down and look. It was listed for rent. It was $15.50. It was on the market for sale as well, for rent for 79 days, so it didn't move quickly. So you can get a little bit of history, right? Here it was active and then it went to a lease. So it was an active listing for 72 days and then it leased out. Okay, so I'm just thinking if it's had a tenant in it since 2013, I don't know. I would have known this from my pre-list interview. Is a tenant living there or do you live there? So then I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at the listing. Okay, so it's got a brick front. It does have an HOA, so I see that there was an HOA. And I'm going to look at pictures. Now, mind you, this is 13 years ago, but it gives me an idea of the yard. It gives me an idea that there was a fence then. They have a screen porch, so that's a feature. I would be writing a note down. So either on my notepad or on a piece of paper, I'd be writing down the features of this house because it's going to come into play later when we're doing our adjustments. Okay, so I'm going to write screen porch. There's some seats up here, y'all, and there's some seats up over here. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Just because you're late with Starbucks. With Starbucks. It's okay. It's all right. Come on in. I got Dunkin'. And I was here early. All right. So you can see that it's all brick. you can see that, it has a screen and porch. So I'm going to write that down. Edward, you're going to write my notes for me. So it has a screen and porch. I'm going to write that down. It's fully fenced. I'm going to write that down. I'm going to go through and see, okay. Oh, there's only 4 pictures. Lovely. Okay. So when there's no pictures, it makes it really hard for an appraiser, for you, for anybody to kind of compare apples to apples, right? So then I'm going to go in and maybe at least read some of these descriptions. It does say it had granite countertops, so I'm going to make note of that. It does have a security system, blinds. It does have a lawn sprinkler system, so I'm going to put that in there. And I'm just kind of getting all of this data. Okay, so I'm just trying to get a feel. So I've talked to them on the phone. I'm looking at here. Now I'm going to go up to Realist. So I'm going to click on Realist. And if we talked about this at the MLS class, but Realist gives you a lot of information about homeowners, floodplains, all that stuff. So I'm going to put in that address that we have. And I'm going to hit search and I'm going to pull up their report. So on this report, it's telling me it's a 3, 2.5 bath. It was 27 square feet. Now, if I go back to Matrix, let's see, they're about the same square footage. So that's good. So there's a big discrepancy there. So I'm going to base my CMA probably somewhere off of that. But if there's a big discrepancy there, you want to measure, you usually always want to measure before you price. But, you can use this as a guideline. But if you see 3,000 on tax records and 25, I would tell them there is such a discrepancy in your paperwork. I need to measure first. And I would measure because you always have to measure your listing. We know that. You don't list a house without measuring it. But before you do numbers, you've got to know what you're working with, right? Because if this said 3,000 and that said 25, we got to figure out where the difference is. Is it a room that they thought they could count if they couldn't, all that good stuff. So here I see 2 names, right? Owner 1, owner 2. So if I've only been talking to owner 1, I need to ask, yo, where's owner 2? Are y'all still together? Are we cohabitating or are we not? Or and if they say, oh no, they're out of the picture, well, how? Were they, they're obviously on here. So I can always scroll to the bottom and see if there's any quitclaim deeds recorded. So as you scroll down to the bottom, it gives you deed history, and they bought it married, so there is no quitclaim deed. So, or they bought it co-owner. So I would have to ask if they said they were no longer part, I would need to see a quitclaim deed, or they have to be a part of the transaction. Okay. Again, if you get confused on that, talk to your broker in charge. But I can also see here their mortgage history. So I can see that they bought it in 2016. In 2022, it looks like they did a refinance of 232. Okay, why does that matter? It doesn't really, but it gives me an idea financially, maybe where they're at. So when I'm running numbers, you know, back in the day, people were bringing a ton of money to the table every time you met with a seller. Now, if they've owned the house before COVID, they're usually getting money. But this would gain, what if my price in my head I've already looked at is 250, right? And I see that a couple years ago they took a loan for 232. I'm already prepared for the conversation that you're going to be out of pocket. So I need to prepare my appointment for that, right? How do I prep them for that? How do I conversate about that? What are options they can have? So it's just getting data from here. You can look at their little plot, see where their property is at. I'm just reading through. This is the AVM value. So this is kind of like the Zillow estimate, but it's based on taxes, closed sales, things like that. Is this always right? No. But 70% of the time it's kind of in the range. Yes.
What does AVM stand for?
It says, I don't know.
Average price.
Whatever they just said. But it describes it here. So it will tell you where it comes from, all the data from closed out, confidence scores, metrics that meet the same requirements of that house. So it's kind of and that's the confidence score of how well it would sell. So when we talked about in our matrix class last week, how you could target people who are high probability of selling based on that score. So this tells us, there was a little discrepancy in square footage, not much. This one's saying it was a 4-bedroom. This one's saying it was 3. So there might be just a little stuff you've got to, look at. But this is just giving me, okay, I've done some research. Because for me personally, if anybody says they go do a CMA in 5 minutes, I'm like, what are you doing? Because I'm like, you have to do so much, in my opinion, to make sure you're getting the right data. I'm also noting that it was 2007 because I'm going to look at comps. Age may or may not come into play, but I want to make sure I'm noting that it's 2007 when I'm doing my search. So then I'm going to go back into my matrix, and the last thing I'm going to pull, one of the many things I'm sorry. Okay, I'm going to go to links, and I'm going to go to the Cumberland County GIS. And I'm going to enter this property and I want to see, are there any restrictions? Are there any easements on the property? Is there anything on there that might come up as an issue later when I'm going to go list this house, right? Because when I go to this appointment, if I feel like this could be a hindrance, maybe you're in a flood zone, this could affect our sales. Maybe you're in a wetland area, whatever it is, I'm going to pull that. Okay, so I'm going to go and I take all this with me to my appointment. So like I click, I print all this and I take it with me. So I'm checking owners again. You could see the legal description. So when you're entering in this listing, don't copy somebody's old listing, put in all your own data, and you can get it from here. You can get it from Realist for wherever. So there's our plat book and page. I'm going to click on that and I'm going to look at the plat and make sure that I don't have, any easements on my property. So I was lot 13. You can see it's pretty clean. I got nothing on that lot. So that's great, right? Then I'm going to go down. There's my neighborhood name. So if I didn't know where it was or where I'm searching, it gives me more description. I can also go pull the deed. Then when I pull the deed, again, I'm just verifying. See how here it says and wife? That means they're tenants in entirety. So if one were to pass, then the other one automatically gets all of the legal rights to the property. You don't have to do some of the legal stuff that you normally do. So it's very important to see how the deed's recorded. It's probably the only thing that one of two things you take from pre-licensing. And this goes down and gives you your plat book and page. This also says it's subject to restrictive covenants. Well, I'm not going to get into that in this class, but then you would go pull the restrictive covenants because I want to know what restrictions are on that property, right? Because when I market the house, I don't want to market, you can have chickens when you're not allowed to have chickens. Okay. So you want to, you're checking all the boxes. How can I market this house? Maybe the covenants say I can have chickens. I'm going to market that, right? Because that's going to make my listing appealing to some people. So I'm going to pull those covenants and I'm going to kind of go through it and have that. And I'm attaching all of this to my listing when I list it. Okay. So that was just my little run with you guys before we get to the CMA. So it kind of gives you a little footing for like listings, right? You want to do your due diligence up front, get as much information because we're kind of going blind into this one because I've not walked it. I've not talked to the person. So I don't know anything about it, but I'm trying to get what I can from here. One last thing that I'll always do is I Google Earth it as well. So I will go in and Google Earth a listing. And is it sitting not on, right next to train tracks? Is there a warehouse right behind it? Is there a school next to it? Like I need to look at where I'm going because that can affect pricing as well, right? So I'm going to Google Earth it too. So all those things, and you should just be making a list as you're doing this with your property. It's located, next to a train track. Hey, it has, they said it's horrible carpet. I see there's a screen porch. All of those things should be written out. Cool? Yeah. Google Earth it. So go to Google Earth, put the address in, and then go walk around the property. So you can see kind of what is in the area. Are you next to a warehouse you weren't aware of and you didn't price accordingly? You didn't, and that prepares you when you walk in to have that conversation. Your price range is from here to here, but this is a hindrance. This could be a deterrent. This could be a benefit. You back up to a park, whatever. But you want to have that information. If you roll in and there's a big warehouse and you didn't know that and all your numbers are like, you're not prepared for that conversation. So you always want to go in as the expert. Even if you have time, go drive through there a couple days before your appointment if you can. See what else is going on in the neighborhood. Is it trashy? Is it nice? Is it, is it the sign falling off? Like what would be appealing and what would not? And talk to them about that. I've had homeowners go out and fix their neighborhood sign. So like I've said, pulling in here looks rough. You need to go fix the sign. And they've gone and fixed the sign. So like, it just makes you look like you're trying to get them the best for their value. All right. So now when we go to do a search for a property, what we typically do, well, what I do, don't say Megan said, you can do it any way you want. You can go into my matrix, go into my CMAs and start from there, a brand new one. I don't do that way. I come into search and I start my search for the properties that I want to see are comparable to my listing, right? So we generally start small and work our way out, meaning we start with our neighborhood, then we go to elementary school, then we go to middle school, and then we go to high school. Now, when you're somewhere like Hope County, how many high schools are there? One. So we kind of have to look at distance at that point. So there's different things that come into play. I am going to jump really quick to here, and we're going to watch a couple things. Just to give you guys and I put the
But you'll see a $40,000 adjustment for that difference in.
okay. Maybe
Spot says 20 on one, and you're looking at Cape Fear Avenue on the others, and it says 65.
Okay.
You're not in the same place, right? So, but they are the same
Let's
age
put the
house,
closed
might have been the
caption
same
on.
builder. So it is, I know that's
Okay.
an odd area, but most of us are doing
What they're
platted
talking about
subdivisions,
here
just the
is in your
And
subdivision.
when
So
we
if
take
you
a look
have
at those
one that's kind of
properties,
out in the middle of
we might end
nowhere,
up
you're going to
using a
have
comp
more
from that other
leniency,
area. But
right?
you'll
To go out
see
as
a
far as you want.
$40,000 adjustment for
But
that
when you
difference
see
in
really large
what's the three rules
adjustments,
of real
it
estate?
might be too far.
Location,
Okay. So you're
location,
looking at
location.
location. That's what he's
And
focusing
people
on.
want to take advantage of that difference in location value, but
The value. So, but if you're
we don't
doing
care.
more than a
So those were the two
40,000
things.
large adjustments. So I don't want to cherry pick, right? If I'm in Haymont, we know there's a part of Haymont on one side of Bragg Boulevard, right? There's another part on the other side. I don't want to be on the other side and I'm picking all the ones from over here just to get a higher value. But when you go and look at lot values or you go look at comparable sales, they're not comparable and you're doing $40,000, $50,000 adjustments. That's too high. Okay. It's too high. You don't want to use those. Um, I'll see on our break if she can fix that. We'll come back and watch them. But this video, I really want you to go through, and I can even give you guys my minute markers because you're going to ask me a lot of questions that I can't answer that they can't even answer. So I'm going to give you the best that I can tell you. But okay, so this neighborhood was Windsor Park, right? Because it was on Realist and it was on the GIS. So what I do typically is I'll do active, pending, sold. I do active because I want to see what my competition is, right? What am I up against? I look at pending because that's current trend, right? And then sold is the past. Now appraisers want to use 3 good comps from the back, but what he also says in the video is that they want to show one active in their appraisal to show that the market value is still there. Okay? So meaning if I pull a comp that they're all 500, but the current market's showing 4 something, that could affect the value of the appraisal. You shouldn't price on active. I'm just saying you've got to look at active. Now, how far do you go back is a question everybody says. How far can I go back when I'm pulling comps? It depends. So they always want at least one from your neighborhood if you could, because it's the same lot value, usually the same builders, it's the same lots, all that stuff. So that might allow you to go up to a year, right, back to try to find a comp in that neighborhood. Now, let's say you have a very unique property. Let's say I have a circle house with 20 acres and horses, and I have a 2 sheds or 2 cabins on, like it's a unique property. I might have to go back a year or two to find anything similar, right? So it depends. Typically, and you also want to see how your market is. Okay. During COVID, we weren't going back more than 3 months. I mean, because it was like insanity. Now we've stabilized. So you really could go 6 months to a year because our market today is not much different than a year ago. The market time's long, sellers are giving concessions. It's shifted to that 6 month, close supply. Yeah. Yes, appraisers are. I just got one back the other day. It was 9 months for one and 10 for the other. So yes, they do because the market is stable enough to do that. They won't do that if the market's crazy or it's shifted. Also, if you have 3 good comps from the last 60 days, they're not going to take the comp from a year ago. So it depends on what you have available as your comps. If I'm just cherry picking year-old comps because it's going to raise my price, when I have 2 that closed in the last 60 days that were lower, they're not going to take that year, right? Because why would they when they have 2 newer, better comps? So you're going to keep that. So I'm going to change mine, but I don't want to do a year because what could happen to that comp? If I do one that's exactly a year old, It could be expired even more. Like I don't really want to go a year. Years are max. So I just might put like 220. This is just Megan. Okay. You pick whatever number you want. But 6 months is always solid right now. But I would go up to 10 months probably easily and not even worry about it. Just to see what pops up. Now, like I said, if you have comps that close sooner, they might be better. The other thing is that you want to start in your neighborhood. The more you leave your neighborhood, the more exact your house should be. So I'm not cherry picking a house 3 miles away that's all brick and I'm wood and has a pool and I don't. And because, oh, it has the same square footage. That's not happening. Like, you have to think in your brain, as soon as I leave this neighborhood, I've got to find a twin. They ought to have 3 bedrooms, 3 baths, similar exterior, similar lot size, similar neighborhood features. I don't want to take an HOA neighborhood if I'm not an HOA neighborhood if I can help it. Sometimes you can't help it. But okay, so I'm going to go down to subdivision, and it was Windsor Park. I'm going to click on that. Now, also you have to do a little bit more work now. And I'll talk about that as we go to middle school and we do all those things. But you got to do a little bit more work because the way that the triangle has fed into our MLS, sometimes the neighborhoods they're not putting as the right neighborhood because they don't know our area very well, or you might have to start really big and go to zip code and then scroll in, and I'll show you how to do a map search. But you can't just do one and done because you might miss some really good comps because of the merger. Okay. So I see Windsor Park. I'm going to click on it and I'm going to give you an example. This says Raleigh. Okay, because we have duplicate neighborhoods. So I'm going to say Linden because mine was Linden. So that's why you don't want to just go from that screen and start clicking houses because they're not even anywhere that we're going to use. Okay. So let me just take it off and show you again. So when we go in there, you can see, let me change it back to one. So you can see it shows active, pending, sold. It's got, different price points. It has Windsor Park. So all of it looks like it could be our area. So that's why you're going to want to dig in and look for ones that are more located in your area. And we do have a lot that are duplicates with Raleigh neighborhoods. Oh my word. So that's not uncommon. So you want to make sure you're double checking that. Okay. So I go to results. I have one. So what I'm going to look at this, okay, it listed at 370. It sold at 319. Immediately, I think two things without reading anything else. One, it appraised low and they had it overpriced. Or two, this was like a stress sale or an investment or something, right? So I'm going to come down, I'm going to read the features. I'm reading, all that. And then it basically says it's being sold as is. It's saying it's positioned, submit offer, seller offering $15,000 allowance to repair, replace HVAC units. Properties being sold as is, motivated seller, all offers would be considered. I also see down here it's cash, and I also see it's court ordered. Am I going to use this one? I have a traditional sale. I have, we're not desperate to get rid of it, but between all the things that you can see, well, if they're offering $15,000 allowance, it probably means they'd give 20 or 25. They paid cash, so they probably asked for what you would ask for 10 grand in closing costs. They took that deduction and now we're down to 320. So this isn't really a comp that I'm going to use. So that takes us outside of the neighborhood. So I'm like, okay. So you can see, you would look up their schools. If you don't know the schools, Cumberland County has a link on the links, or RPR lists the schools. You can always go to RPR and list the schools. You can go to your map feature and put on layers for schools. There's all kinds of stuff you could do. So there's Riley Road Elementary and there's Pine Forest Middle School. So I'm going to go back to my criteria. I am deleting the Windsor Park and that stuff. Now, I had how many bedrooms? I had 3. So I'm going to put a range from 3 to 5. Okay. Because I have a 2,500 square foot house. So there could be a 4-bedroom in there. There could possibly be a 5 if you count in a bonus room. So I'm going to do 3 to 5. I have 2.5 baths. So I'm going to put 2 to 3. And I'm going to do half bath 0 to 1. Okay, so there's my range for that. Because if I just search Linden, it's, yeah.
So if you know that it's only 2 bathrooms, why would you?
Because I don't want to miss a comp that might be 3 that is perfect, almost like mine, and they just added a bathroom. So I don't want to limit it so much that I don't get comps that I can kind of maneuver with. You can start really tight. I mean, you could do a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 1.5, and see what you get. But you can also narrow it down from a bigger search. So however you want to do it. If you want to start really tight first and you can't find enough comps, then you can work your way out. I like to do a range to start. So however you feel that you want to do it. Then I'm going to go down to square foot range down here. So my property said 2527. So the rule for square footage is typically not to exceed 10% of your square footage. So if I'm 22547, about 250 is up or down. Okay. That's keeping you where the appraiser would keep you with square footage. Does that make sense? So 10% of whatever your listing square footage is, up or down. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to go, this is my range here. I'm going to go down 1 and I'm going to go up 1 basically. And that puts me in a similar range of square footage based on that 10% window. Does that make sense? I can't tell from y'all's faces if it's like, I'm struggling over here. Yeah, y'all should have been late and got a Starbucks. So I'm also going to consider putting in, so remember that we merged with the triangle, right? So they put some of their features in differently. So I might come down here and add a field if your MLS doesn't already have it, because everybody's is different, your screen, and put livable square footage. So the livable heated square footage is how we have to enter it in for all the listings, especially with triangle. So from here, I might do 2300 to, what was my 2800? I'm not doing the 250 math, but let's pretend I did the 250 math. Now, if you really wanted to start like tight, right? Like I want to see if I can find my perfect match house. You could come in here and start adding all these extra features. Screen porch, covered deck, fenced yard. You could add all of these features. Good luck. I feel like if an agent doesn't put it in, then it's not going to pop up. But you could. Let's just say you want to start. You can go in here and enter every additional feature of that house to see how many would match it almost perfect. Then, that gives you an idea. Okay. So now I'm going to put, we're going to go to high school, which is Pine Forest. Now you would start grade school, you would start middle school, you would start tighter first. I'm just starting here so we end up with the most comps so I can show you how to go through them, okay? But I typically start neighborhood, elementary school, middle school, and then high school, okay? And the appraisers make the same note. If I had cool audio on my video, you would believe me. Now, if I had a garage, I could put yes, because I want as like mine. Again, it just depends, because if an agent puts stuff in and there's no features, especially when triangle merges, a lot of their features are blank. So like they could have a garage, but it's not going to populate because it's blank. So I tried to limit that, as much as possible to get the most results. So I have 94, way too many for me. So I'm going to take this back down. I'm going to try 3 months to see what that number looks like. 54. Cool. Now I'm also going to go to new construction and make sure I change it to no, because I am not new construction. Okay. So I'm going to take that to a no. I don't need to compare to new unless I'm a year old. I'm not using new construction. So I'm going to put that a no. That's going to help me, right? So that just eliminated 30 of them. So I have 24. I feel comfortable with that. So now I'm going to go to my results. I'm going to change the view back to agent one line. Okay. So now here we can't see our livable square footage. Remember, we put that as a category. So I am going to hover over this little gray area. Okay. And I'm going to left click. I'm going to insert column. And I'm going to type square foot. And I'm going to do livable heated square foot and hit apply. And now I can see the square footage. Okay. So y'all should have came to my MLS class last week. So when you're in this gray area up here where you see it turns into 4 arrows. Do you see how, I don't know if you, oh yeah, 4 arrows. You're going to left click on that. And when you left click, you can insert or remove a column. So you can customize it to how you want it. So like if I want to insert the closed square footage too, I'm going to search square footage, add closed so I can look at that. It's there, these are all active, but when we get to the next page, we might see, or down there. There you go. So now I see that, I see livable. So now when I'm looking, I can kind of get an idea of what I'm looking for, right? You can move things. If you click on this, you can make it low to high, high to low. I mean, you could do all kinds of things, but we're not gonna go into all that. So I'm looking at right now, I only have 4 sold. So I don't know if this is going to be good or bad, but we're going to go through those 4. Okay, so I am taking a general look. So if you take a general look, I feel like you can get an idea of a range already in my brain. They're all pretty, in those high 3s, low 4s range. Okay, so I feel like, okay, I'm pretty on point, I think. So cool. So now what I do, now if you create a display like this and you want it to always look like this when you log on, you could just save it right here and you can save it as your display. So then when you come in here, you can click whichever display you like to see your MLS. Okay. So what I'm going to do is go down to the first sold property. Okay. So I'm going to look at this one. So this one was listed for 37 days. It was listed at 379, closed at 377. It does have a brick front. We have a brick front, double garage. I have a double garage. This is a ranch. I'm a 2-story. Does that always matter? No. Do we want to see 2-story with 2-story? Yeah. But if we get into a situation where we have two stories and one ranch and everything else kind of works, then maybe we use that comp. Okay. I would love to say that this is the way to do everything, but you could literally right now have Candy, me, Edward, Nicole all go do a CMA in the same property, and it's going to be completely different. So you just have to use, I stick with the main core things, square footage, bedrooms, bathroom, major features. I don't go adjust for tile here and this and that. Like I don't do the tiny adjustments. The appraisers are going to tell you too, everything's different by house, by neighborhood. There's no cheat sheet, but okay. So I'm reading features. Okay. So they have granite countertops. I had granite countertops. Cool. Master bedroom down, other bedroom. They have a security system. I had a security system. Sunroom. They have a sunroom. I'm going to look at that. Hopefully there's pictures because I didn't have a sunroom, but I had a screen-in porch. So I'm going to write that down. This one says back patio, back porch, covered front porch. This isn't a golf community. Okay. Mine is not. So I don't know that this is going to be great for me because this has amenities. It has golf. It has a clubhouse. I might just have to look at it for right now because I might not have other options in Linden, right? So I might have to take adjustments for these HOA marketability features of the neighborhood. And then I'm going to come down. It tells you about the property. I'm always reading that. What's been updated, what is new, it will tell you features that maybe they don't mark off. They remodeled the bathroom. They have storage, all that stuff. Cool. I'm taking note of that. Now I'm going to go through the pictures. So it has brick outside. Okay, it has laminate floorings. It has updated paint. It has a semi-open floor plan. There's a fireplace. I'm gonna look at the kitchen. So the cabinets, don't look that much newer. The tile looks like the same tile that's probably was in there. It does have stainless steel appliances. I am writing these down for every comp. Okay, if I end up using this comp, I want notes of everything it features because what do I have to do with it later? I got to compare my apples to apples, oranges to oranges. How do I adjust that? So I'm going to go through. Now I'm old, I have a piece of paper and I'm writing it down. Here's the address and I'm writing the features, right? Now for you techie people, you could have your iPad out with sticky notes on it and write, or you could do however your technical heart loves it. But you want to write the notes because I don't want to forget that this house had a sunroom if I don't have a sunroom, or I don't want to forget, all those things. So I'm going through and I'm looking at the pictures. I see the features. Okay, they do have granite. Okay, everything looks pretty good condition. Yeah, it's cute. There's the tub. So they have a tub, shower, tiles been completely updated. So I'm writing notes because this almost looks like they not flipped it, but they've really done a lot of updates. And the condition adjustment comes into play. I want to say it's like marketability, but you have to compare apples to if one is very dirty and destroyed, they are going to take a condition adjustment, but they factor everything in, your HVACs, your roof, all that. Not huge adjustments, but If my house looks scary and nobody's going to want to come in it, they're not going to give the same, I was in a house a week ago. There, I had to shower after I left. There were needles. It was bad. So they're going to take that though. When the appraiser goes in there and they see spray paint or dirty or whatever, and I can't look at this house and say I can give you the same value as this house, right? Okay, so I'm going through the features. Big garage, it has additional storage. So it has a covered porch. So I'd be writing that down, large covered porch. Now I have a screen and porch. So they're probably going to wash each other in my mind. But I'm still writing the notes down so I don't forget the features of this house. You can see it's fenced. It has a concrete patio, crawl space, okay, cool. So now our question about this one is that it's in a golf course community. So I'm going to mark it off for now. I don't know that I'm going to use it. Okay. It depends on what happens. So then I'm going to go to next. Yes.
The year that it was built, this one was 95.
Okay. So the year built was 95. Did that house look 95?
No.
Do you think they've updated most of the things since 95? I'm not using the age. I'm not taking an age adjustment. If I can see that it's, I wish the video would play because I talk about this, but if I can see that they've updated maybe the HVAC, the roof, they've updated the appliances, they've updated the house, I'm not comparing a 1995 to a 2017. They almost this one actually looks better, possibly. From the picture, we didn't have any pictures, but let's say they didn't do any updates since 2013 because it was a rental or something. This one probably looks better. So I'm not going to take an age adjustment in that case. This is Kings Grant again. So I think we're fighting Kings Grant right now with this neighborhood. This neighborhood is a very small neighborhood, kind of all the way down out in the middle off the side somewhere. So it's going to be hard to find comps maybe that are outside the golf course community. But anyways, I'm going to read this one. So Lisa listed it at $353,900, sold at $349,000. You can see it's 2405. It's 100 square feet smaller. You can read it. It's a 4-bedroom plus a bonus. So it's quite a bit bigger, like room wise than ours. It has quartz countertops, tile. There's no notes about anything. It gave 0 concessions. This is saying the square foot sold at 28. If the square foot was really 28 and they listed it at 2405, the house was probably undervalued. If the square footage, if they didn't measure, I'm not saying anything against Lisa. Lisa, I love you. But let's say she based it didn't measure it or whatever, and it was 24, and she based her pricing off of 24. Okay. Then the appraisal came back. They could have negotiated at time of contract, got it lower. And then when they went and did the appraisal, maybe it was 2,800 square feet and they got great equity when they walked away. Right. So that's why you always want to measure to make sure, because now this says agent, it was advertised as 24. That puts me in a situation. Am I using the 28? So, and personally, what I would do, I call Lisa. Hey, Lisa, this is Megan over at wherever. I'm working on a listing in the area. I saw your listing here, listed and sold. Is there anything I need to know about it for a comp? By the way, you had it marketed at 2405. The closeout square footage is 28. Was that the appraisal square footage or and I'll ask what she priced it on. Did you base it on the 24 or the 28? And if they'll cooperate with you and said 24, but it ended up being 28, I wouldn't use the comp. And I'd have notes of that. So if the appraiser used that, I can say, no, actually. Okay. So you kind of got to dig in. Yeah. So I'm going through, I'm looking, it's brick, I'm brick, right? And it's got wood floors. It's got a semi-open floor plan. I mean, nothing looks horrible here. It has quartz countertops, but kind of the older cabinets. That's okay. The tile backsplash, older tile floors. Okay, so I'm going through and I'm making notes, right? So is there anything about this house that I may or may not have? Because I want to write, even if they have a screen porch, I want to write that they have a screen porch. So I don't end up making an adjustment on theirs that doesn't need to be adjusted, right? So I want to write down all the features, even if they match mine. So we go through, we write notes, tile floors, we're good. Okay. So they have a sunroom here. It doesn't look heated or cooled. So this would just be a sunroom. If I wanted to clarify, I could call her and ask her. Because if it was heated and cooled, it's probably part of the square footage, which now I'm wondering if some reason maybe they counted that square footage of that room, and made up the difference of that off square footage. So you're going to have to do digging sometimes, because to me, I don't see any vents. I don't see a split unit anywhere. This just looks like a sunroom screen porch to me. So you would get a value for that, but it wouldn't get square footage. But who knows now they have extensive decking. I would write that down too, because I don't have any decking. So I'm going to give some value for that. And I'm going to go through like personal property, you don't get any adjustments for. Hot tubs, you don't get adjustments for. I know some people say pools you get adjustments for, but it's not $30,000. I mean, I think on the video they say like 7 to 10 maybe, depending on the landscaping, the concrete, everything around the pool. So they talk about on that video, just because you built that shed for 50 grand doesn't mean you're getting 50 grand for that shed. And how you find out the value you're going to assign to that is you have to go find like houses. What did they sell for that did or did not have the shed? What's the difference? That's your value. So that's when they will not give you set values, because you have to compare what each one has. So let's say we're not going to use this one, right? We're too unsure of this one. Cool. Now we're going to go to the next one. This is Woodbridge. It does not have an HOA. It's 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, quartz countertops, new fence in 21, new AC in 22, newer driveway in 2018. Make sure you do not put new on your listings without the date next to it, because when you put new HVAC and they find out it's 2020, your butt's going to be in the bulletin. So don't say new when it's 5 years old. Okay. Like, be honest and disclose exactly how you hear it. So they were on the market 6 days. They listed at 375. They sold over asking. So either it was priced really well or shows really well. This is a nice little neighborhood too. So it's got a covered front porch. It's brick. I'm in a 2-car garage. Love it. Wood floors. I'm liking this one. It has updated countertops, cabinets. It's very pretty. Now, mind you, I don't know what mine looks like because there are no pictures, and the lady told me the house was great. So her version of great might be different than my version of great. But I'm going through and I'm like, okay, this one's cool. Like, all right, it has bedrooms, bathrooms have been updated. They're lovely. This might be a higher comp that would be on the high end for me. Like if I was on the phone and they've owned it since 2013 and they said they've done no updates, then I know their bathroom don't look like that. And I know their kitchen don't look like that. It's probably brown. So they just painted cabinets. This one's a standard, so nothing fancy in this bathroom. So I'm digging this one. I like this one. Carpet, some of the original wood doors. They have a screen porch. I have a screen porch. We're almost like identical except the pool. So I don't have a pool, but almost everything else is checking the box for me. It's in a neighborhood that's not a golf course community. It's got a screen porch, 3 bedroom, it's kind of it's brick and wood. Like, I love it. So I'm just going to probably keep this one on there, but I'm going to take a deduction, obviously, for that pool. So I'm going to write down this house, obviously has a pool. Ideally, I don't want to use that one because it has a pool and I don't, but everything else I think is beautiful to match what I'm trying to do. So I'm keeping this one. Does that make sense? Okay. Yes.
If you go back to the realist, there's another tab that will show you the picture of the house.
Oh, okay, cool. We'll go back to that when we get done here so I don't lose this.
You would use that?
I would use this one. Yeah. So next, this is in Fairfield Farms. So if you know the neighborhoods, this one is going up a little bit higher end now because Fairfield Farms is a little higher end than the other one we were at. This has an HOA. Remember, mine did. It was $300 a year. I just didn't have golf and all that stuff. There's 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, 2.5 baths. It's a brick. I mean, from right now, it's checking the boxes, right? I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to read to make sure there's nothing I'm missing. Let's see. They have another pool in 2020. So it looks like the comps I'm going to use are just going to have to be pools, and I'm going to adjust them. Now, the wholesaler concession's $8,500. This is always a question of why do we put that out there? Why do they know? Does it affect the pricing for appraisers? So appraisers don't price based on concessions, but they take them into consideration. So almost like if this house sold at 415, right? they're taking into consideration they gave 8,500 in closing costs. That value could have been affected by those closing costs. So they don't take deductions for it, but they definitely take it into consideration. So if you're a higher price house, they might expect either concessions or that it could come in lower because this one had to give away concessions and gave away concessions and it sold lower. Okay. They could probably explain it better when you watch the video because it's not really my jam to explain that part, but they do take it into consideration. If they look and see that you gave away concessions, I mean, then they look at the price, it kind of all goes together for them that had to take a deduction. Do they give a number to that? Not really sure, but they take it into consideration. I don't know how to better explain it. I would say watch the video. All right, so this is brick, awesome. Gives you the floor plan, open floor plan, wood floors. Looks like the tile, the cabinets, all that stuff is probably from the time this house was built. You could see the granite countertops. So we're checking a lot of boxes for our house and this house, right? So may not be perfect. It's tile shower, tile bath, all that good stuff. I'm good to go. Okay, so I'm like, okay, this one's great. We're gonna go look at the pool. We look through all the rooms. The bathrooms are standard, so you can see like they've not done a lot of any updating. So not that it's bad. I'm just saying like, it's good condition. There's nothing fancy they didn't redo and spend 30 grand or whatever. Garage, and then I'm sure there's your pool. So, we have two comps that the houses match, the yard does not. We probably just have to take adjustments for that because we didn't have many options in our range. Because remember, we went to high school. So if we go to elementary school, we might not have any comps. So we're already kind of pretty far in our range of what we can do. So at this point, we've selected 3 comps. Okay. So we're going to take a break right here, 5 minutes, and we're going to come back and go through the CMA math part of it.
Did you go upstairs?
I mean, new construction's easy. You just search by new construction. It's way easier than existing. Yeah. So if you're building, you just have to go as far out as you can to find new construction. If you have new construction building, say in Linden, and there's nothing around you, and you have to go to Fayetteville downtown, if that's as closest new construction you have, then that's what you do, and then you take adjustments for the lot value. So you can go as far out as you need to get to other new construction. So you're not as tied as an existing. Okay. No, I would just start looking for new construction, brand new construction, and look within, how many miles you could start 3 miles, 2 miles, 1 mile, and you go and find the closest to you, and that is most comparable to your quality. So if you're doing basic stuff, you don't want to pick the houses that are doing granite and all the other stuff. You have to find like to like.
So I did this and it's like maybe not even half. But their listing price is about $349. My vendor and we were more embedded in foreign country.
Yeah.
And something like but that's what
they're selling that. Yeah, so they might not sell at that, but 250 seems extremely low. What is the square footage? Oh, it is pretty small. Okay. Yeah, but they might be, but if you looked up sold, not active, or active doesn't mean anything to you. You need to look up sold and see if you can find it at 1,300 square feet. You're gonna be going really far. Because I don't know very many new construction at 1,300 square feet. So you're probably gonna have to search pretty far for that. It depends. If you're 5 acres versus half an acre, yes. If you're 1 acre to half an acre, no. No. Lot size is not an issue typically. You're welcome. Good. Let me.
Yeah, you got it. My house got hurt because I got really after this and that's the way I started. They let me shout when I was I'm like, should I say it's the 3 acres. That's the general plan. I know, but I get it. So it's a cover the plan. Yeah. Oh, the super. Yeah, that's the he was there. This is actually.
No, I'm sure I did it. I probably broke
Okay.
it.
The two things that I saw on the other one I'll add. Okay.
Okay. Let me get in here real fast.
If not, it's fine. I just told them to go back and watch it later, but.
No, you're good.
Many days are.
Oh, I immediately do the subdivision.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Yeah. You text me, oh, I got it, I got it.
All right, is everybody just about back? Okay, all right. I'll make sure everybody's here. Yes. 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 Okay, so we've selected our 3, best comps that we thought. If you might want to do 4, that's fine. If the one thing I could tell you is do not cherry pick. Okay. Go in it blindly, picking the comps that are most like your home. They usually like to see a couple that have adjusted down and a couple that have adjusted up. So it's not always picking the highest, most expensive and going down, or the lowest and going up, like a mix. Okay. So keep that in mind when you're looking. A couple questions I got asked on break is, lot value. Lot value typically not affected unless if you have a half an acre, they have an acre, if the use is the same. So you're not going to get an adjustment for that. If you're 5 acres to 1 acre, yes, there'll be some adjustment to that. If I'm in Gates 4 and I'm using another neighborhood outside of there, I can pull up Realist, look at tax values of the lot. So if you go to Realist and you let me click over there really quick. If you go to Realist and put in the property, you'll see it gives you a land value. You can look at those land values and compare them, right? So if they're $20,000 off from each other, you're not going to take a $20,000 adjustment, okay? You're going to take a partial adjustment. But you can see down here, land value, okay? So you can kind of compare those. You know, you don't want to use waterfront with non-waterfront. The golf view that we had, I don't know, that's going to be a great one because it's golf front, golf view, whatever. Probably not the best comp, you know, so you want to think about those things. But if I'm in a neighborhood and my client's like, I have the biggest lot in the neighborhood, it doesn't mean anything to me. It's marketability, you know, hey, largest lot in the neighborhood, but I'm not going to get value when everybody else is a quarter of an acre smaller. Okay. So those type of things are not going to pop up. Again, the more unique your property, the more liberal you can be with your distance, with your search. So if you have a townhome, right, and you have to go from Gates 4 and you've got to go across to Cliffdale, West Point, or whatever that's called, townhomes, you can do that if that's the closest townhomes most like yours because it's a unique, you know, it's not like a single family where there's 50 sales in between there and there. Okay, so I've selected my three, let's say, and you'll see different things on the bottom. So 3 up literally just puts them up 3 in a row. Okay. So you can see that they're just listed like this. This is not something you price with. This is not anything. It's just literally taking them and writing them to where you can see them. Quick CMA, your quick CMA, this gives you a breakdown, right? So this is your days on market. This is your minimum, your max, your average, your median. There are no adjustments here. Okay. It's a range. So these could be kind of good. Like if you're doing market reviews for your clients, your past clients, you could pull up their neighborhood. You can do, you know, active pending sold, do a quick CMA and send this to them. Hey, did you know this is the activity in your neighborhood? This is not specific to your home. If you'd like more information, yada, 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 right? But it would give them an overview of what's going on in their neighborhood. If you farm a neighborhood, you could use something like this. Doing a CMA, it's great to print out and have all the data in front of you, but it's not the pricing exactly because it's not showing any adjustments. But it is giving a good scenario because you can see most have sold under list price. I'm going to point that out. They're not selling, you know, at or, well, one did above. Most of them are selling below. I'm preparing them at that appointment, right? I'm setting expectations. The days on market have been about 30 to 40 days. I'm giving that expectation. Okay. So this is great for data and information for you to use. Now I'm going to go to CMA. So the CMA is the one that we're going to do with the adjustments. Okay. So when I start the CMA, I can either create a new contact. So I can put my person in and create a new contact. Okay. I put their first name, last name, email. Doesn't mean it's automatically going to get sent to them, but they're in as a contact. If you don't want to put them in as a contact for whatever reason, you could just put here Windsor Park. I would capitalize it, make it look nice. Okay. So then you could go back and find it later. So that's really up to you. I would just put everybody in as a contact with their email and go from there. Now you have this pages tab. So let me clear this so you guys can see. Okay. You see how the top is all grayed out? I can't do anything. Okay. It's because I've not put anything there for me to do. So if you click on these little, you could click the plus sign and it's going to show you your options. This is a cover sheet. This is a cover sheet with agent photo. This is a cover sheet with no photo. You don't know what any of them look like right now, let's say. So I'm just going to click all of them. I'll come back and change this later. Okay. Then we have subjects and adjustments. This means how is it going to be displayed with the adjustments that we're making. So now you can see we added the cover sheet. So put our subject up there, cover comparables. I'm going to show you all of them. I prefer the 4 up. Okay. That's my preference. I'll show you what I do later, but I'm going to add them all so you can see them all and see the difference. Okay. Then you have comparables. So these are like a lot of charts, like average days on market, list to sell. Like it breaks it down with all the different charts and then the pricing recommendation sheet where you can put your range in. I'm going to add them all so you can see them. Okay. You can always go back and change it. Then we have the statistics. So you have different things in here, you know, why you don't want to overprice, what creates a good showing, days on market, how you lose value the more you overprice. Great stuff. Because from my pre-list interview, if I said, what do you think your home is worth? And they said 500,000 and my numbers are at 4, oh, I better come in prepared. So I'm like, let me think all the things that I can take to show this. So I'm just going to add these all so you can see them. We're obviously not going to take 40 pages to a CMA. Okay. This is for you to see them all because I'm assuming most people haven't seen them all. So then you have the map, which you can display where your comps are. So you can do the plus sign, see that, and you can add the map so they could see where these houses were, especially when you're not in the neighborhood. Now they also have this cool feature of my manage custom pages. So here you can upload your testimonials, you could upload Real List, you could upload any other data that you wanted to make part of the CMA. So you can customize that and add, like I did some stats, I've had a net sheet, I've done different things, and I've uploaded it here to custom pages. So why, well, you can always just print it out. Well, if I'm emailing this though, maybe this is an offsite owner. I want it all in one document. I don't want to send him 17 attachments. Or maybe I just freaking forget all the time. So let me just add my testimonials here. Let me add my marketing plan. Let me add whatever it is here. You can add it under manage custom pages and you can upload whatever pages you want. Okay. All right. So over here are all the, now you see everything's lit up. Over here are all the things that we've added. Now you can set it as default, which means every time you log in, everything's going to look like this. You can clear it or you can go to restore default. So I have certain ones that I save. So once you figure out the ones you like, you can just set it as your default. So every time you come in, you don't have to, you might have to add some extras. Like if the guy wants to overprice or something, you could add some extra sheets. You can also move these up and down. So I can click on CMA map and I can move it to the top if I want to talk about that first. I can also delete and I can move them around. Okay, so you can customize that a little bit yourself. Cool on that. Okay. Subject. If y'all need to stop me, just stop me. Okay, so with our subject, we have multiple ways to enter the data for our subject property, right? So we've got to put in everything about our house. So when we go through the comparables, we know that we can make adjustments. Okay, so one, we can do it manually. So manually means I'm going to go in and enter every single field. Cool. We also have enter listing from an old ID. So like on Real List, it showed the house sold and has an old MLS number. So I'm going to type that in there and hit fill, and it's going to pull the data over. Or you can go and search in the MLS for a listing, an old listing. Okay, so you have either option. Most people will do manual. If it's an old listing, you don't have an old MLS. I do pull from the old MLS, but I do verify all the information. So I'm going to type in that old MLS number that it's sold at, and I'm going to hit fill. So it's going to bring it over. It's got a photo of the house and it pulled all the information. Now this you can all edit. Now, if you didn't do that and you did it manually, this is the same screen, only it's blank. Okay, so you would go in and enter address, number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, all that wonderful stuff. Okay, so it has, I'm just gonna do some stuff to, okay, so you see list sold price doesn't really matter. You have sold date doesn't really matter. But you have your features here, your garage, your bedrooms, all of that stuff. Now, now you have these custom fields down here. What do you think you use these for? More specific. So like screen and porch. Okay, beautiful. I'm glad you were listening. So I'm going to say screen porch and I'm going to hit okay. How many screen porches did I have? One. Okay, someone put one. What did some of the comps have that I don't have? Pool. Someone put pool. And I'm going to hit okay. How many pools do I have? 0. Okay, put 0. I think we kept the one comp that had the golf course and all of that. So I'm gonna put golf an HOA. And how many did I have of that? 0. Okay. Now let's say one of those comps, I don't remember which address, I would say is far superior than mine. Let's say my 2013 has done no updates. I think that's when it's built. 2007. Let's say it's done no updates. That one that had all the bathrooms and everything, I think is superior to me. Okay. So I'm going to say updates and upgrades or whatever, however you want to do it. Or you could be specific. You could say updated bathroom. Okay. How many of those do I have? Let's say 0. And they had 2. If I wanted to say updated kitchen, okay. Okay, cool. And I have 0. Okay. So we're going to go through and list whatever we need to make adjustments for. Okay. I don't nitpick like backslash to backslash. I don't, I'm not saying don't do that. Megan didn't say don't do that. I'm just saying I try to stick with the big things. Now you could go through and make every adjustment you want to. It's just a matter of getting them to see it the way you see it. And you have to remember if your seller did all these updates, let's say, and they're exactly like the comps, they're not getting additional value if they're at par with the comps. Does that make sense? So if my seller just went and spent 50 grand to update the kitchen, but it looks like everybody else's now, he's going to get the value they had, but I'm not giving him an extra 50 for updating his kitchen because now he matches his comps. Is that tracking? Okay. Yes.
So those numbers there, you're saying, 7290 did not.
It's about me. Yep, my comps.
What?
This is about me. So on here, it's about the comp itself. I have it or I don't have it. Because we adjust all the comparables. We don't change anything on mine. We adjust the comparables to be like me. So I have to say, what is me? What is my standard? What do I have? What do I not have? The comparables have to adjust to me because I don't change. Yeah, so this is me. So that's why we wanted to take the notes. What do those people have that I don't have? I need to put it on here. What do I have that they may have or not have? Because some of them did have a screen porch, but some don't. So I've got to have it on there. So this is all about me and comparing it to the others, but the adjustments are going to happen on the comparables, not me. They have to be like me. I have to make them match me. Does that make sense? Okay. So we have that on there. Now we're going to go to the next field, which is your cover photo. I don't know who that girl is, so sorry. Update your photos so they're not catfish when you walked in and don't know who you are. So you're gonna update this, make sure everything's up to date, your photo's cool, everything's good, great, wonderful. Comparables, this is where we go to our comparables. So we have our comparables. We can see like we had to go pretty far out. We're like 7 miles out. So, I would probably assume that we've already done elementary school and we've already tried to do a tighter search. This would be 7 miles out would definitely be because we had to go further to find something like my house. Does that make sense? Okay. You can rearrange those if you want. You can also go back and look for more. Let's say you're like, wait a minute, I think blah, blah, blah. You can go back and look in your listings again and try to add more or add from your cart. So when you are doing searches for people, let's say I'm doing another CMA and I see a property that works. I could create a cart for Ed and put that property in there and say, later when I do Ed's, I think I could use this property. So it just sits in this cart. Once I get to Ed CMA, I can go pull from that cart those ones that I pulled that clicked in my head earlier. Okay, so you can have that, or you can add from listings, or you're like, no, I'm good. I picked the ones I think I need. Okay, cool. So, yeah.
So I know you was mentioning about the distance that you had to go, but if
Yes.
you have to go out that far, I mean, what would be?
I mean, typically you're under 3 miles. Typically you're under 3 miles. I didn't search elementary school, but based on looking on high school, I'm like, well, this might have been where he ended up. If we would have cut back, you could go back and search just by elementary school. Maybe you find something closer. So always start close for a matter of time in class. I just went straight to high school, but you might have to go. I mean, I've had a log cabin once and we were almost in a whole other, like I was near Raleigh to find a log cabin. So, this house isn't that unique, but it also isn't a golf course community. So we probably did have to, it's not new construction. There's a lot of new construction out there. So you might have had to have gone further, and also looking at it, it's still kind of in that range we originally looked at when we pulled all the active pending. So it doesn't seem like we're cherry picking to be any crazy price, right? Okay. So then I'm going to go to the map. The map just shows you where those comps are at. Okay, maybe. There we go. So it shows the comps. This is where we are. So we had to go a little further out. Then we go to our adjustment screen. Y'all don't ask me for certain amounts. Okay. Do not ask me. What do you put there? One, I will say, talk to your BIC. Okay. Your BIC should have an idea of what's, relative numbers you should be using. Two, my best advice that I could ever give you is every closed appraisal you get, save those adjustment pages. Just create a spreadsheet and you'll start seeing averages very easily. Garage 3,000, garage 6,000, whatever. You'll start seeing it. A friend yesterday texted me. He said I had to give him credit. So Mike, if you're watching, Mike Lovelace, he said that he's taken all of his appraisals and put them in a chat GPT and said, create a spreadsheet with all the areas and values. So it kind of created a spreadsheet of like zip code and what the average value. So, you can figure out your own values if you track it enough. If you're brand new, you'll go to a senior person in your office or go to your BIC and say, I'm doing this CMA. Like, what would you give a garage? What would you give a whatever? So don't ask me. Bedrooms, I do not adjust for bedrooms unless it's a totally different quality. Like if I'm a 1-bedroom home to a 3-bedroom, obviously this is a little different use. A 1-bedroom is going to be a single person, 3 is family, right? Or not family, multiple people. The appraisal video says the same thing. They don't typically adjust for bedrooms. So again, don't say Megan said. Megan said you don't do that because there are people who do that. So to each their own. I'm just telling you me. Bathrooms. So we get to bathrooms, right? I'm going to say, let's just say, this is not a set number. I'm just going to give a number for demonstration. Let's say it's $5,000 for a full bathroom. Yeah. Megan told me in class. So we're going to say 5,000, right? So I put 5,000 in there. What does it do? What did it do to this one? No. Subtracted. Why did it subtract it?
Make it similar to the subject.
To make it like me. It has to match me. I'm taking your qualities and either adding or taking away so that you're my twin. Okay. So you want to see that. So let's say the half bath is half of the full bath, of which I just made up. So you'll see it added 2,500, right? Because that one had 0 and it needs to match me. So I need to add it a bathroom. Okay. Are we tracking that? So we don't change me, we're changing the comps. Okay. Crawl space, don't really have anything in there. Garage spaces, we're all the same. We don't have any carports listed. We're all brick veneer or cement. Sold aged, don't really think it applies here. And people always put it in wrong. It's how many years, y'all, not the year. Okay, sold square footage. It says no data. So what does that mean? What do you think? I have some seasoned people in here. Tell them the answer. You don't have it on your subject. So I can't do any adjustments to make you like me if I don't know what I am, right? So I'm going to go back to my subject and go down to sold square foot and put it in 2547. I think that's right. Huh? I'll go with you. All right. So then I'm going to go back and you'll see it puts it in. Okay. So I have my closed square footage there. So we have two. I'm going to do the easy way and then I'm going to confuse the heck out of you and tell you another way. Okay. So on here, luckily, didn't plan this. They are all out of the Fayetteville MLS. So the closed square footage showed beautifully, right? So I'm going to jump to this tab that says pricing. And I'm going to look at the average price per square feet, 163. So average price per square feet, 163. You see it over here. Average price per square feet is 163. I'm not using the whole 163. Again, watch the appraisal panel videos, but I'm going to explain it the best I can. You're taking 50% of this average square foot, okay? So we're only taking 50% because we want it to include everything in the property, the lot. This includes everything, property, lot, everything. So we're taking 50% of that to do the adjustment. If you're like, Megan, why are we doing that? Watch the video. Okay, so half of 163 is, let's say, 82. So I put it in there and it makes the adjustment for square footage. Okay, so all of these were smaller than mine. Yeah, yeah. So it had to add to all of them, okay, to make it like me. So it's adding that square footage. Now, I will tell you one thing that's positive about this. These are very small adjustments. So I feel like they're pretty good comps. When you see 30, 40, you're really stretching to make a comp be a comp because $50,000 is almost another house. So like, when you see 14 and you see 5 and stuff like that, they're pretty solid comps, okay? Now to confuse you, and I know I'll confuse you, so just tell me to re-explain it when I confuse you, because I will. Let's say that this is a triangle listing, okay? If there's a triangle listing in this mix, it's not going to show the closed square footage. So I cannot go over here and click the tab because it's not using all 3, right? It's only using 2 because one of them wouldn't be there. So if you ever want to go and figure out square footage and you don't want to cheat, okay, let's say, what you're going to do is you're going to go into each one. You're going to take the sales price, divide it by the closed square footage. The closed price divided by the closed square footage and get your average square foot. 158, 163, 162. And then you're going to add all 3 together and then divide by 3 to get the average square footage and then divide it in half.
Say that again.
So let's okay. So let's pretend that we don't know how to go to the pricing tab. Okay, let's just pretend. Now y'all work together because I am not a math major person, nothing. Okay, so our first house, and somebody needs to have a calculator. Our first house closed at 377. So remember, this is the adjusted price when we've made it like us, right? This is where it started at. So we want to look at this price for right now. Okay. So we're going to take 377 and divide it by its square footage, which is 2506. What is that?
150, 43.
150, 43. Okay. That house's average price per square foot. It sold at 150. Cool. We tracking that part? Okay. Next one's 380 divided by 2353. What is that? 161 what? 41 cents. All right, so now we're looking at St. Thomas, 415. So we're taking 415 and we're dividing it by 2316, which is what? All right, so these are the 3 average per square footage, right? But now for that property, that's their square footage. Now we got to find the average, right? Because we got to figure out all of them together. So we need to add these 3 together and divide by 3. 163. 70.
And then divide by 2.
So this is our average for all 3, right? So when I found out the square footage for each one, I add them all together and then I divide by how many there are. So 3 average and get 163.70 and then we divide it by 2 and we get the same number we got there. But what's going to happen a lot of times is that when you do a CMA in our MLS, there's going to be triangle closed properties. And when you get those, it's going to be 0 here. So you're going to have to do them all manually. So that's how you do it manually. When you happen to get it, luckily, and this was a great example, that they all have Fayetteville, then you can just click to this pricing tab, see your average, and divide in half. Saves all the work for you. Okay. But when you have one missing, then you have to do it by hand.
That was easy.
Thanks. Sure. Last time I did this class, I butchered the heck out of it. I almost gave up. I'm like, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Okay. Yes.
You said like this and just like 17, you have one in almost 2,000, you have 14, and then you're 17. If you have like maybe 20 or 25, as opposed to that's 17 or so, is that going to be out of whack?
I think the higher that you get, the more astronomical 25, 30, 35, I'd probably go look and double check I don't have a better comp. If I start seeing $30,000 to $50,000 adjustments, it may be the only comp you have. Like we have limited comps in ours, I felt. So if you had to, I would go back and double. If I got to that point and I started seeing these huge adjustments, I'd go back and start all over. Start out really, just by zip code features, elementary school, then middle school. Like that's why I say when I do a CMA, I'm doing it at least an hour. I'm digging every option, every route, yeah.
So what if it's in like the same neighborhood, but then you have.
If it's in the same neighborhood, it still depends. They always like a comp in the neighborhood, but like my neighborhood that I live in, you could have, 1,500 square foot and a 3,500 square foot. I'm not using a 3,500 square foot to price my house. So it would depend in that situation. If it's pretty much the same floor plan, and it's a big square footage different, it depends on if you're past that 10% and you're at 20, 30% square footage, that's not a good comp to use because you're taking a whole other house and making it something else. The less deductions you can make, the better your comps. So that's what I would be looking for. The comps that I have to do the least amount of deductions to. Yeah. But if you have comps in your neighborhood, always start there and see. But look at Gates 4. You have $1 million homes and you have the townhomes. Like I'm not going to use $1 million home to justify my 3-bedroom, 2-bath. So if there were no other comps, I'd have to leave the neighborhood. So it just depends.
I get adding it and dividing it by 3 for the average, but why are we dividing by 2 up there?
So you're dividing in half because this whole square footage. Okay, so this square, I'm gonna try and explain it the best I can, then go watch the video. Okay. This square footage includes everything. Your fixtures, your tubs, your countertops, your lot value. It's giving you value for all those things. That's how you get the whole amount. This half percentage is because we're only comparing square footage. We're not comparing features at this point. So we're going wall to wall. So in this room, we just want to know what is our wall to wall space that I'm comparing. That's why we take 50%. But if I wanted to count windows, doors, light fixtures, and all that, it's going to go up to a higher amount. So the 50% is literally just wall to wall space. That's why we take 50%. We're not including the fixtures. We're not including the lot. We're not including your upgrades. We just want to compare square footage to square footage. Yes.
What's the name of the video you keep referencing?
Oh, it was almost like I asked her to say that, but I didn't. When you go to YouTube and you search Longleaf Pine Realtors, they have appraisal panel videos. There's multiple of them. But this is our most recent one, which after we finish the CMA, I'm going to show you a couple clips from here because you probably will never go home and watch it. So I'm going to make you watch it here. All right. So we have our lot size. Again, we didn't put any in here, but we could if we wanted. Year built, I don't think any of these required an adjustment because most of those were probably better quality than mine. So I don't really feel like we had to do that. Now we get to the screen porch. So somebody pick a value for a screen porch so you guys don't think I'm giving numbers. Just pick a value. Gee. Woo! Man, I'm building a screen porch. All right, let's go with it. 35,000. I think we'd be closer to 1,500, but let's make it fun. Okay, 35,000 square footage. So I don't remember who's who, but we know one had one and two didn't, right? Okay, so I don't remember which is which. Doesn't really matter. So we're gonna say this one had one. So we're gonna put a 1. This one did not have one. So we're gonna put 0. And then we're gonna put 0. And it's going to take the adjustment. Okay. Now, just for more realistic numbers, I'm going to change that back. Sorry. Okay. So you'll see that it takes the adjustment. Now, pool. Let's give a pool $8,000. I'm not saying that's the value. And we had 2 that had pools and 1 that did not. I don't remember which ones, don't matter. So, it will matter for you. So make sure you're doing the right adjustments. Make sure you do the right adjustments because I'm just putting numbers on here, not with the right houses. Okay. So let's say this one did have the pool and this one did not, and this one did. I don't know. I don't remember which were which, and we all didn't take notes. So, we didn't do what I told you to do. So it's going to take the adjustments and you'll see for the pool. Okay. So it's going to keep, and when you see and this is just me personally speaking, Candy, you can add if you want to add to that. When I see a really huge range between like the top and bottom, I feel like it's too big. I might go back and reevaluate as well. Because I ideally would love to be between 20 and 30,000. But like if I'm 60, 70, 80,000, 90,000, I feel like I might not have got the best comps. Yes.
So parentheses means they're subtracting
Right. Because
value, and without the parentheses meaning they add.
right. So remember, I am what everybody wants to be. So if they have a pool, they have to take it away to be like me because I don't have a pool. And then this one, let's say whatever, and then this one that has a pool, but it's not like me. It's got to look like me, so it's got to take it away. So yes, the parentheses are negative, and the other one is positive.
Right.
Yes.
No skill though, because everything was updated, but what if the years that were built, what if
So you want to,
updated?
so if your age adjustment, they say 300 to 500 a year after 3 years. That's usually the tip from the appraisers. $300 to $500 a year for every year over 3 years. So if you have to do an adjustment, it's in one of the videos where they've mentioned that. I don't know if that's the same exact number now, but it's after 3 years, they'd start doing a small adjustment. So after 3 years. So if I was a 1980s house and he was a 2000 and there was no updating the 1980s house, we would take an age adjustment. That age adjustment is usually $300 to $500 a year after 3 years. So you would start at year 4. But sometimes you have to look at the numbers on that too, because if it becomes too crazy, they may not take that full adjustment.
Megan, did you manually put the minus 80,000 or did it?
It does it for you. So when you put the value at the top, and then I put that this one has a pool and I didn't, it does the math for you. That's why there's 2 columns on these sections, because you're putting in the number, because previously they did it for you. So previously, they would have the numbers for you. See, bedrooms, garages. We have to manually put that in for these extra features. So we put in the value we think at the top, and then we put ours, what we have or don't have, and then what they have or don't have. Okay? So yes.
So from your low to high, you say you shouldn't really be anywhere between 20 to 30.
I'm not saying,
Or you
Megan didn't say. I prefer to be like 20 to 40,000 max from my lowest to my highest. When I start getting 50, 80, $100,000, I feel like, how do I go to a seller and say, here's my low, here's my high? It's $100,000 difference. So I feel like this number should be, as tight as possible, so that I have a very good range. Because I feel pretty confident if I walk in this house at 3, the house maybe is in great condition. It's great, but it's not updated. It's not, I feel confident saying low level is, 395, high is 425. Going all the way to 370, I don't think it's too bad of a range. I just think I would go back through, because that's 50 almost. I would go back through and make sure, because like the one that's killing us is that one that was on Lion's Head. That one that was on the hill that sold at 3 whatever. So I feel like I would go back and re-look at, but then I look here and these are not huge adjustments. So the adjustment part is actually not bad. So I'm just going to reevaluate. Now what I might do, I show up with this and I do have a low of 370 and a high of 425. Maybe I don't give them that because I walk through the house and now I have a totally different opinion. So then I might be like, okay, well, I'm going to go home and work on the numbers and get back to you. But if I walk in and go, yeah, it's 370, I could say, hey, if you don't want to paint, do carpet, and you need to sell this house in 30 days, blah, 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 you might want to be at this range. But if you want top dollar, these other houses are higher because they had updated bathrooms. They had this, they had that, but if you're not deep diving and you walk in that appointment and you can't explain each comp, what the value is, why they got it, why yours is, that's going to be the losing factor for you. So you've got to really deep dive and know why you made those adjustments, why you picked those comps, why you did what you did, and why you got your range. Okay. Now, not to say anything, but you can see that this kind of matched that AVM value too. And it matched that active pending sold page. They're all kind of lining up. So I think we're in a pretty good range. Okay.
But those are like from that top to bottom, that's about like 55.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'd probably go back in and just double check that I don't have any others. And also I put random adjustments, random places. So that those numbers could have evened out if I did the proper places. So, now pricing, it's going to give you your, low, medium, average, high price per square foot. So that 415 house might have sold here, the lower price house sold here. I like to be able to explain that. Why did this one sell at 150 square feet? Well, sir, if you go back to this comp, they've had no updated carpet, they had no updated appliances, they had original wood cabinet, blah, 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 blah. This house that sold at the 179, or ma'am, whatever, this had all flipped bathrooms, new tile, had in-ground pool, blah, 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 blah. Okay. I just don't want to show them the paper and be like, figure it out. Because I barely figure it out. So I want to make sure I can explain it. Then this is what they closed at. And then once you adjust them, it gives a different range as well. So you have an adjusted and then a closed. You could come down here and write your notes. Suggested list price. You never choose a price. You do not go in there and give a seller a price. You can give them a range and you sure can guide them to where you want them to go, but the seller picks the price of their home. Okay. You do not go in there and say 410, because guess who's going to be in trouble if it appraises at 450 and you told them 410? And guess who's going to be in trouble when it doesn't sell and they have to drop it to 350 and you told them 410? So you give a range, you give the data, seller picks the price. Okay. And if your seller wants something you're not comfortable with, go talk to your BIC. Say, here's my scenario. But a seller technically can list wherever their heart desires, even if the numbers don't match. Okay. That's why you have to be able to deliver the data, explain it. I know you weren't at the MLS class last week, but you can go up here to the stats tab and you can pull average days on market. You can pull average showings. You can pull all the data to support wherever you price these houses. Showing time gives reports on how many showings depending. You could go on and give average days on mark. Take the data. Okay.
So question.
Yes.
So the AVM actually said 374. If this was the numbers you came up with, what would you recommend?
What? What would I recommend to the seller? I can't say that until I go in there. If I took this range and I took 377 or 370 to 425 and I walked in that house, I am going to dictate based on condition more than likely. If I go and see, but I'm also doing way more than just a CMA. This is a CMA class. I'm going to go and pull the stats for how many days on market to sell and what price point. And I'm going to go look at showing time. How many showings are happening and which price point? If I'm getting 10% more showings at 415 than I am at 425, I'm simply going to suggest 415 because the data shows days on markets and showings happen more at 415. CMA is only one part of where I position pricing. So your CMA is about positioning. All the other data helps them determine where do I need to be, high end, low end. What's their motivation? They might not care if it sits for 6 months. They might say put it at 430. They might say I need to be gone in 30 days. Put it at 350. I mean, that's why. So when I walk in, I give the numbers, but I'm also pulling every stat from that stats tab, from showing time. I mean, I'm giving you the data. It's going to show you how many showings are happening and what price point. And if you see 425 is 0, 415 is 10 showings, I'm pushing that way. You can see we're not getting traffic. So use all the data, use all the reports in showing time, use all the reports in stats tab. Okay, so then we're going to go to finish. And we're going to look at all of this. Remember, we're not doing all these pages. Okay. This was an example. So if you've never seen them, once you know the pages that you love and like, you'll go back and edit that first page to show the things that you want to do. But I'm just going to show you a couple clips from this.
Take a look at those properties. We might end up using a comp from that other area, but you'll see a $40,000 adjustment for that difference in what's the 3 rules of real estate? Location, location, and location. And people want to take advantage of that difference in location value, but we don't care.
So those were the two things that I saw, and the other one I'll add.
Okay, and hold on. All right. We got a couple more. I just want you to.
Confusing too. Even if it has a breezeway or a screened hallway or whatever it is, if I can't walk from finished heated cooled space right into it, it's detached. And I've had some older houses in Fayetteville where you had to go out into the garage and go up the stairs to the bonus room. That square footage is not included. Disclose, put it in, just put it in there. You know, you can put the square footage of that bonus room. It's, you know, only accessed by the garage. That lets us know and lets the potential buyer know it's not accessible from the inside of the house. But there's also a little blank that says apartment, or I don't know if it says
So
something.
if you have things like that aren't attached, you have an apartment over your garage, they're counting it in their regular square footage of their house. So you have to understand when you watch these things that you don't get the same value for that. Let me see. I made notes on certain spots for a reason, I'm sure. So
My clients looked at a house that had an unpermitted sunroom. That was approximately 10 years ago when it was added. Underneath that, there's a water spigot, next to it, an outlet. Will this pass a VA appraisal? Not sure if this is an answerable question. Well,
so he's going to go into safety, right? Like have it, but when it comes to unpermitted spaces, so a lot of people say they finished their garage and they didn't pull a permit. The appraiser not necessarily is going to say it's not giving you value for that. If you walk out to the garage and it's like materials, like finishes, heating and cooling, everything looks great. You have a new door, you don't have a garage door. You know, obviously it looks like a finished room. They can still give you the square footage value for it without the permit being pulled. Now, as a listing agent, you should always disclose permits. Even if your client doesn't know, then say client doesn't know if there are ever permits pulled. They're the fifth owner. Disclose it. And as a buyer's agent, disclose it. Like, hey, this might not have had a permit. There could be electrical issues. Because when there's no permit, that means nobody's checked the quality of the construction. Okay. So it's a risk for both parties. So make sure that you disclose that. Hold on. Yeah, another one. There's a lot of good stuff in here, but obviously you didn't come here to watch a video. So I tried to pull parts that I feel like you were going to ask me.
Sitting in there, right? It closed in June.
And they talk a lot too. I love them, but they talk a lot.
So a lot of people have skipped over that one. Go ahead.
Yeah, one of the next questions was about what is the adjustment for a garage? What is the adjustment for a sauna? What is the adjustment for a pool? Well, the answer to that is there's no cheat sheet. You know, we can't give you a page and say, okay, here's all the numbers. This is what you need to know. They don't exist. Okay. All the adjustments are ranges. Just as a house will sell for one price in Montclair or one price in what's the north side of Haymount called? Cumberland Heights?
Yeah.
That same house by the same builder, built the same year in Haymount, sells for something less. That's the location. So in one location, the adjustment might be $5,000 for a garage. In another, it might be $20,000. So
yeah. So it's very important when you're asking people what adjustment. It depends on the area, the neighborhood, the finishes. So there is no set cheat sheet for that. I mean, there's averages that we use, but that's why I think every time you get an appraisal done, you should save those appraisals and make a spreadsheet of your adjustments. Hold on, I have one more. I had notes on my phone what these were pertaining to, but
if you're out in the country, they ain't gonna offer that. There's no subdivisions out there basically. So, you know, 7 acres out off of Maxwell Road, ain't happening. But you get those. This leads into what's the difference between conventional VA and FHA? I like to tell folks, think of a pyramid. Conventional are the ones.
so this part talks about your loans. So when you go to your listing appointment, you guys kind of have to be somewhat familiar on what's going to affect the value of the house or what's going to be a repair. You know, if you have rotten wood windows falling apart and they're not willing to fix it, you're welcome. Are you going to get Starbucks? You know, you have to make sure that they're prepared for that. You know what I mean? Because that could be a cost that they didn't have a prepared budget for. So I might not go in there at 425. I might say you want to sell as is if you don't have the money to do repairs or things like that. So it's good to know that. So go through and watch that video. There's really good content in there. I promise it's worth the hour. I've watched it twice. So like, I promise it's worth your time. This is the CMA. So you could see the different cover sheets, right? So here's one cover sheet. If y'all don't know how to customize your banner up top, that's in MLS as well. Just go to your settings and then you can customize the top. That was an MLS class last week. Here's we do have one of the older MLS videos on there, yeah, but not the one from this last week. Yes, this is being recorded. So this is another cover sheet, and then this is another cover sheet. So you could choose which one you want, right? So if I want that one, if I want this one, you have that option. This is the comparable summary of comparables. So this isn't doing adjustments, but it's just showing you what the comps are that you used. This is the 3-up, and I like the 4-up because I'll get there eventually. But this shows your home and then 2 others, and you fall off the thirds on the second page. The other one puts them all on one page. So that's just a personal preference thing. But this breaks down the adjustments so that you can talk about these in front of them, the adjustments you did, why, all that good stuff. Then this is your CMA map. It just shows where they're located compared to you. This is that 4-up, which I like. They're all on one page, so I can sit there and go through it with them, house by house. And I'm going to write notes on this before I go there because I don't want to blank out. I'm going to write, not updated, updated bathrooms, pool. Like I'm just making little notes so that when I'm going over it, I remember what I'm talking about. This is a bunch of like data. So like sometimes it's good to have because you don't know if your person's a visual person or not. If you haven't detected that from your pre-list interview, like are they a visual? Do they like numbers? Are they a data person? So you do have an option to take all this, but this is showing average days on market. And this is what I would do. If I put this graph in there, I'm pulling this property and I'm going to write why do I think it's sold in 6 days? Okay. It was priced low. It had amazing features. The pool is phenomenal. Why did this one? This one was outdated. No updates, no good condition compared to the whatever. So when I talk about days on market, this is another point to say, hey, average days on market is longer the more overpriced you are or the less condition that you have. Okay. So I'm explaining everything I'm trying to gear them towards. And I'm backing it up with data. So here's our list of sold. It's just a ton of data. Let's say you don't want to remember like all the features of each house. This prints it out so you could talk about how this had an in-law suite. They updated this, they updated that. So you could talk about each comparable with them. I usually have a printed version and then I have an iPad and I go through the listings. Like I'll pull up the comps and show them the photos so they can see what I'm talking about. If there's a house on the market that's vacant, I will go schedule a showing during my listing appointment and show them. So they can see this house is on the market 50 days, it's much like yours. So where do you think we need to be if this one's been sitting in 50 days? So I always try to do a visual so they feel like they're making the decision and they understand why. These are all your graphs, pricing recommendations. So this is where you could have wrote in your range, any notes that you wanted to add. You could say house 1 was a flip, house 2 was it whatever, house 3 has pool. You can write notes on there. This gives you activity versus timing. Your most exposure is your first 3 weeks. Those top 2, I'm talking about this because if they want to overprice, I want to make sure they understand what we're up against when they do that. Then it gives you your guarantee to them. So if you want to look professional, like a little contract, but then you got to do what you say you're going to do. Effective overpricing. So the longer that you're on the market, the more value you lose by overpricing because you end up having to drop the price. So it's just like if I did that pre-list interview and I say, what do you think your home is worth? And I already know that we're not in the same range, I'm bringing all these because I'm going to educate them before we get to pricing. Pricing is going to be the last thing I go over. We're going to talk about the comps. I'm going to talk about overpricing. I'm going to talk about days on market. I'm pulling all the stats. Price is the last thing we talk about. This is a great sheet you can use for sale by owner farming. The benefits of using a realtor, so you could use that for farming. This explains what a market analysis is. Importance of pricing. The lower you price, the more the percentage of buyers you get. The higher you overprice, the less percentage of buyers you get. Okay. It's just great data to reinforce. You can even use this on your social media. Just post that up and say, don't overprice because you're going to miss the market. Like, you have all these, your desires versus the buyer's desires. They want a deal. You want the most. We got to find a compromise. Again, market value price. Where do you find your buyers? Where do they come from? How to show well. So these are all the things that you can put in your report. Now, if you want to go back and change any of them, you just go back to pages and you can hit clear and start the ones you want. These are just typically the ones I usually use. I'll add more based on my client, but those are my baseline where I start. Now, as I've had phone conversations or whatever comes up, I'll add my custom pages or I'll add other things. If you have to get back to your CMAs, you just go to my matrix, you go to my CMAs, and it will pull up all your CMAs. Questions, concerns? Did everybody learn something? Okay, yes.
We didn't finish all the way out when you had, golf.
Oh, yeah, same thing.
I mean, how would you price a golf and POA and?
I mean, you would probably pull up some of the land values and give a general, maybe it's a $10,000 value for being on the golf course. So you'd put 0 for you, and then, they would have a 1, and then you would put 0 for the others. But again, there's no set numbers. So it might be a lot value thing. It might be just a marketability thing. They have a pool and this and that, but you could just look at land value and possibly make an adjustment based on that. Typically, I wouldn't use one of those. That's in a gated golf and all of that when mine is not. And I will say, she sent me an email on what day? It said, I saw your class, will you use my property? And I was like, that was very smart of you. I've never, in all the years I've taught this class, nobody's helped me help them with the listing. So hopefully it helps you.
Share, even though I can't use yours, but I can use it as a guide.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I have your email. You emailed and asked me to do it. She needs Starbucks. All right. I appreciate y'all coming to class. Make sure you check your calendar. We do classes every month.